We're going to start in just a couple minutes. How you doing? Good to see you. Good afternoon and welcome. I call the meeting of the Community Development and Human Services Committee to order. I'm Councilmember Jason Dozier. I'm chair of the Community Development and Human Services Committee. I'm joined to my left by Councilmember Jason Winston, Councilmember Matt Westmoreland, and Councilmember Byron Amos. The first item on the agenda is to adopt the agenda. Colleagues, I will go ahead and motion to adopt the agenda. Can I get a second? Second by Winston. Please open the vote.
Vote is open.
Please reflect Amos's aye.
All right, the vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays.
All right, the agenda is adopted. 4 yeas, 0 nays. Next item is approval of minutes. I'll go ahead and move to approve the minutes. Can I get a second? Second by Amos. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. And the vote is closed.
All right, the minutes are approved. 4 yeas, 0 nays. Next item on the agenda is public comment. And if I remember correctly, the system is not up and running, but we do have folks who signed in physically. And so for those of y'all who have not been at public comment where I'm reading handwriting, please bear with me. So if I mispronounce your name or misread your name, please feel free to correct me at the microphone. One of the things that we do remind folks is you have 3 minutes to speak. Roughly at the 30-second mark, I will whisper gently into the microphone to let you know that you have 30 seconds remaining. I'm going to try not to interrupt you, but just want you to be aware of that. And we'll go ahead and move forward with public comment. The first speaker is Carrie Salvery. Good to see you, Ms. Salvery.
My name is Carrie Salvery. I'm a resident of Vine City Community, and I'm here today representing the Alliance for the Activation of Cook Park. And I guess all of you know that Cook Park is a new park, and the park is very, very well attended. The people are out there enjoying themselves constantly and consistently. We do have some other issues other than maintenance, but that's not a subject for this discussion today. But I will say that, you know, based on my experience in being in the park, And as an observer and a user, I can say that our schedule for maintenance needs to be improved. Because of the park is as used as well as it is, the days of maintenance is not enough. Someone should be in the park every day, not every other day, cleaning the park. And I can tell you, and I think the former commissioner and the new commissioner can tell you about the number of pictures that I take on a regular basis, sending them to the Parks Department, allowing them to see how trash is overflowing on a consistent basis. And there's some, mainly it's the trash that's not being picked up, and what I consider to be really consistently. I think the graffiti, I was out there the other day having lunch, and on the pavilion where I was, the table was just completely filled with graffiti. And so I can't tell you how often, someone comes to investigate, how the surfaces are being cleaned and such, but obviously it's not enough. We also have graffiti that's resident on the new signs that we have out there. I don't know how often they clean those signs, but the graffiti is consistent. So I said all that to say that we don't want to see our park, devolve into a park that have been in place for a long time. And I will share this story with you. When the park first opened, I called my son. He lives in Seattle. And I was so excited. The park is opened. It's really great. And he says, well, Ma, I just hope in 5 years you can say the same thing. And so what we don't want to see in 5 years, the level of maintenance to be decreased. And at the point of where we are now, with the lack of investment by the city council, in the whole parks situation, I think that we will probably arrive there. And I will also say this, if it is a priority for the city of Atlanta to have increased parks and increased park space, it is also an obligation, and it should be your desire to make sure that the existing parks are well maintained and safe on a consistent basis.
Thank you, Ms. Alvery. Thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Winfrey Young. Please come to the podium.
Greetings from Pittsburgh community and from Pittman Park. My name is Winfrey Young. I'm chair of Friends of Pittman Park, vice president of the Pittsburgh Neighborhood Association, and CFO of the Pittsburgh Collaborative. And I'm here, like a number of folk, to ask City Council to please consider funding over and above what is already being funded for Parks and Recreation. Friends of Pittman Park came into existence in 2019. Before that, our park had a swing set and a climbing frame that were donated from another park, and some adult exercise equipment, two of the pieces that kept falling over. Since Friends of Pittman Park came into being, we've gotten wonderful support from Park Pride, going on $200,000 in grants, and the park is so much better than it was. People are coming out to the park again from Pittsburgh residents and beyond. We have a new volleyball, basketball court, a beautiful pavilion with picnic tables and some grills, a huge new swing set. The problem is that people are walking up over past trash to come to the park. We're not getting the grass cut. We're not getting the trees taken care of. We had two 40-foot trees that fell over, and they fell so that they were leaning against each other at least 8 feet above the ground, just waiting to fall. And it took 2, 3 phone calls to try to get somebody to come there. The best maintenance we saw was the week before the mayor showed up to do the ribbon cutting on our new volleyball and basketball court. Mulch was put down. The mold on the sidewalks was pressure washed away. It looked like a brand-new park, which caused the residents to even more upset because they were like, this is what happens when the mayor comes. What about all the other time? So I am here with my last 40 seconds to say that it is very important for funding to happen that allows for either more hiring of folk, whatever Parks and Recreations needs, to bring equitable maintenance to parks like Pittman Park in communities like Pittsburgh. We deserve the same amount of attention as Piedmont Park, and I hope that you will consider that as you're talking about this budget and funding for the next year. Antonio Lewis. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Young. And we've been joined by Councilmember Antonio Lewis. Our next speaker is Taryn Arbeiter. Okay.
Hello, my name is Taryn Arbeiter. I'm coming from Chosewood Park. I'm the president of Friends of Chosewood Park, and I have with me our vice president, Bobby Spiller. We have some handouts, so I'm just going to wait until those are distributed to start my time, hopefully. Okay, so Chosewood Park is a 17-acre park at the heart of our Chosewood neighborhood geographically, but culturally and in terms of our community, unfortunately, it's not there yet. Part of the reason is lack of funding for maintenance for the park. And so you can see in the handout that we've distributed that we are dealing with a lot of dumping, tires, TVs, furniture, litter, concrete bases of posts, concrete blocks that are not picked up on a regular basis. Our community does hold quarterly work days to try to deal with the amount of dumping that we receive, as well as other park maintenance issues. But even having, volunteer groups of 30 people quarterly isn't really enough to do the maintenance all by ourselves, nor do we really have the time and energy to continue doing it as volunteers when it really should be the city's responsibility to maintain our park. We're also dealing with a significant amount of overgrowth that you can see in these photos here. The community has raised raising $50,000 to do a 5-year kudzu removal plan in the park in order to make the park accessible to users. However, right now, there is just a mess of kudzu and garbage all over the one side of the park, and so that's a problem that the city has let get out of control since they acquired the property in 2009, parts of the property. The other maintenance issues we deal with are you can see on the third page that there is some drainage infrastructure that was installed in our park in 1981. However, it was not maintained, and so there's 12 inches about of leaf litter and dirt that caused flooding in the park. So we went down there with a shovel and dug out the drainage and then eventually installed some riprap and that kind of thing to prevent further flooding. But that was like a completely unacceptable state for our amenities. And it was also a waste of city money because our tennis court was flooding and it caused a need to resurface. In addition, there's large concrete garbage cans that are, there's about 3 or 4 in the park that don't have garbage cans anymore. I think our maintenance schedule is about weekly, if that. So there are just a lot of maintenance issues. You can look through these photographs and see there's also a lot of downed trees that make it impossible to pass through the park and fully use the 17 acres that we truly value. We just need better maintenance to access. So anything else? No. Sorry, 3 seconds.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you both. All right, our next speaker is Brother Antony Muhammad.
I am that I am, a nigger, king of kings, Kemetic, indigenous, antiquity, divine, dark matter, antimatter, spiritual, soulful, energy, I command the ancestors. I command the dark matter, antimatter, mama of the cosmos, as above, as below. The dark matter, mama of the cosmos, a divine, feminine energy. And she desired that you, miseducated Negroes of the 21st century, to recognize that you are responsible for your people that look like you and suffering on the streets of Atlanta. She wants you to know the dark matter, mama of the cosmos, divine, dark matter, antimatter, soulful, spiritual energy, that you are the same. You have to recognize your antiquity, your Acosta records. Your family created the civilization. Your family taught all the knowledge of sciences on this earth. And she wants you daughters to return to the earth and recognize you got to be of the highest quality, the highest integrity, the highest valuation, because the source and the force want you to become 360 degrees. 360 degrees represent the will of all. And you, members of this council, we have people living on the streets of Atlanta. And I got to give recognition to Mr. Antonio Lewis for his district representation for work to want to change some condition of people that find themselves intoxicated, don't have or really know how to clean themselves up. This brother been here less than what? Mr. Westmoreland, when you made this comment in 2018, Atlanta returned $1.3 million in unspent workforce development money, but we're still sending money back. Recently, Mayor Reed, not Reed, because Reed was one of the responsibilities for not doing anything for the Atlanta workforce. Said we had 400 jobs. We found out he lied. It was only 90 jobs they had created. But we let Mr. Dixon send $10 million in emergency rental fund back to the federal government. The former city official, Atlanta official, convicted of accepting bribes. I'm here and was here then, recognizing that you had the watershed management being questioned, and questioning the workers. Why? Because they had been charged with stealing backhoe and stealing equipment, refined of his upper management. How long are you going to allow this to go on, city administration Dozier? I'm talking about homelessness. You walk down the street, the men look like you. Some of the sisters were feminine energy and masculine energy is suffering on the street. But you can do something about it, Mr. Winston, Mr. Amos, and surely the brother been here less than a year doing work. And Mr. Westmoreland, as I said, I thank you for what you did, but that's 5 years ago. I greet you as I did not greet you. Assalamu alaikum, Ma'at Matrat Hotel, Ashe, Ashe, and Ashe. So it is.
Thank you, Brother Muhammad. Our next speaker is Sarah Butler. All right. Our next speaker is Lewis Woodson.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I'm chairperson for Parks and Recreation in NPUP in Southwest Atlanta. I want to thank you guys for giving us an opportunity to come here for this. We're developing Melvin Drive Park. Everybody's probably heard of Melvin Drive Park. While I'm speaking, there's a $250,000 playground being installed due to what Park Pride did for our community. We're appreciative of that. Just a Sunday a week ago, we had a tire cleanup over at Melvin Drive Park. It's about 50 yards of tires that were dumped there. When I became chairperson for Parks and Rec, the park was known for bodies, burnt cars, 50 acres. That's a lot of land. So we've done a lot there. And we installed the dog park, and we found the 50 acres of tires lying there, and I sent those out. The commissioner has a picture of some of those. So, you know, they have a process now to actually get the rest of the tires out of the ground over there. It's not something recent. It's something that's been there for a while. The tires have become embedded, so they're going to have to get equipment in there. And you better bet you about $1, I got my eyes on them. The other thing that I want to talk about is Ben Hill Park, William Walker Recreation Center. We have a almost $5 million AstroTurf field there. We have an erosion problem. We have water and stuff running all down on the field, and it's going to deteriorate that field. And we have the largest Little League football program in the city. A lot of professional players have played on that field. So we need to get that done. The other thing is at the William Walker Recreation Center, some of the things I've seen in the restrooms, ancient blowing machines. You know, you don't have towels, so we use the blowers. We need to have those updated. Those things probably have been there 40 years. So that's what my concern is. And that's pretty much all I have to say, and thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Henry Jordan. Ms. Jordan, there you go.
Unto the Spirit of God, to everyone that's here. But they, being ignorant of God's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of God. Romans 10, chapter 3rd verse. The law pointed to the righteousness that is attainable only by belief in Christ. When you work against Jesus' righteousness, then you ask for death and destruction, James Griff. All my bones shall say, Lord, who is like unto thee, which delivers the poor from him that is too strong for him? Yea, the poor and the needy from him that spoileth him. Psalm 31st chapter, 10th verse. The cry of distress is the petition of a man falsely accused. 7 countries agreed with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, therefore asking for death for themselves. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation, or distress, or persecution, or famine, or nakedness, or peril, or sword? Romans 8, chapter 35th verse. We cannot be separated from God's love because it is set forth in a person who is God himself. Jesus Christ, our Savior. Jesus offers you life when the practice of sin leads to distress, famine, or persecution, tribulation, nakedness, or peril, or sword. Evil shall slay the wicked, and they that hate the righteous shall be desolate. Psalm 34th chapter, 21st verse. It bears all the marks of the testimony of one who narrowly escaped death, just as the passage in the book of Samuel describes. Ask Jesus to help us not to be wicked. Every rebellion in my heart and yours, die in the name of Jesus. For Christ shall glory in us when we do right. His righteousness, not ours. Because your righteousness leads to death, but Christ's righteousness leads to life. We want the actions of Christ, not the actions of the devil. To keep the soul out of hell. I know I don't want to go to hell.
Thank you, Ms. Jordan. Our next speaker is Tanisha Anderson. Ms. Sanderson? Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is Derek Green.
Good afternoon. Councilman Dozier, Mr. Jareem Sharp has yielded his time to me.
So, Mr. Sharp, I don't have you sign in for public comment, so you aren't able to yield time if you're not signed in on the.
Oh, he's on that second page?
You are correct. There is a second page. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Thank you.
You have 6 minutes.
All right,
Thank you.
appreciate it. Real quick, as a park advocate, well, I don't have 6 minutes. I'm out of 2. All right. Park advocate, Anderson Friends of Anderson Park, definitely advocate. Thanks for Park Pride for what they do. But I'm not here to talk about that today. I'm here to talk about a timeline I want to show with some duplicitous behavior by a certain member, the Assistant Director of Department of Planning for NPUs, beginning in 2019, and actually prior to this, but I'm going to just select a few things. So let's start with 2019. NPUJ, I am the vice chair, so I've witnessed this as a citizen and resident. Starting in 2019, we had an NPU election, and this person is over that department had a formal request that went out for review of MPUJ elections. This review was duplicated among several other MPUs at that time. This November 15th, when that was received by the nominating committee. Then to November 19th, there was a response from that nominating committee that requested an in-person meeting, this is important, that needs to occur prior to the conclusion of the review process and asked that it includes involved members of MPUJ. December 19th, MPUJ, this same committee sent a letter saying they had not received any information. January 7th, 2020, in a letter dated December 6, 2019, is never received by that MPU chair at that time, vice chair, chair, or the leader of that committee. That was the conclusion of this formal request for MPUJ elections. That also stated there would be a new election conducted by Department of Planning. That election did not happen, and the election from that November 2019 was honored. However, in a email dated for January 14th of 2020, there was a request for the date, name, time of those members who were in this meeting, which included 2 city councilmen. It included the then APAB president. It included members of planning. And guess what? It took until October 20th of 2020 to get an answer to that open records request, 10 months. And we were told then by that same assistant director of MPUs that this was an internal meeting. No minutes, no notes, or no votes. Let's go to 2020, MPUJ elections. And if you don't believe me, you go to YouTube, look up October 20th, MPUJ elections, MPUJ general body meeting. There's 40 minutes led by this same assistant director of Department of Planning where she advocates for a candidate who does not meet the city requirement code for being a resident. Moving forward, let's go to 2022, what's going on with APAB. It's important to note that the city's base records for APAB shows MPU presidents, delegates, and assistant delegates. So excuse me if I may be using the term, but basically 2 delegates. And also in MPU and APAB bylaws, it also specifies how these people are supposed to vote, but it does name that the MPU chair or president is the board member for APAB. This is important because there was an email dated from March 17th, 2022, that where this same assistant director inquired to a legal expert or representative of the city about the voting members with APAB and their bylaws. And this note says from that same email, since the code is silent concerning non-voting members, your bylaws could determine how many non-voting members you have and how they are appointed. Key to this last sentence is DCP's recommendation, DCP, which refers to the Department of City Planning. And I'm questioning if that's the Department of City Planning or is that an individual, but I'll digress. DCP's recommendation is that you clarify this in your next bylaws amendment by distinguishing between voting members and non-voting members. Important to note in the APAB bylaws, which APAB's, the ordinance says APAB may prepare its own bylaws not inconsistent with state law or city ordinance. And these bylaws have been in place since 2020. Again, this email is from 2022. From this email, the current APAB president, I didn't want to go too far in this, referred to that in the first APAB meeting this year as a ruling. It was not a ruling. Number 2, APAB bylaws does say specifically the chair of each neighborhood planning committee or designee of the neighborhood planning committee shall have 1 vote. And it also later names how those votes are distributed based on first the delegate has first right to vote, then if absent demurrals, then alternate delegate, and lastly MPU chair. And MPU chair has that decision whether or not to be the delegate or alternate. So it's important, and they are listed as the board member on the bylaws for APAB. So why am I here? I'm here because this is a consistent pattern of duplicitous behavior. Where's the accountability?
30 seconds.
And this is going on now for 2 administrations. So I would like to say finally in closing that we don't need, and this is all my receipts. I have emails, I have a current sign-in sheet. No, this is not something I'm making up, it's in writing. We can no longer stand by as members of APAP and NPU, allow someone to act as judge, jury, and manipulator of the system and the laws of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green. All right, our next speaker is Dewan Robinson. I just want to provide a quick comment. The computer, I think, is being rebooted, so I can see how much time you have, even if it's not reflected on the screen. So just as we go through this, I'll count out 2 minutes, 1 minute, yada, 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 just so you're aware. You have the floor, Mr. Robinson.
Afternoon. I kind of want to echo what Mr. Green has said. Last week, at full council, you guys received a package about a particular gentleman doing some of those same things in the Grove Park community. You have a said council member that was alleged in collusion with this guy is speaking tonight at NPUJ, asking for the NPU to grant them permission to rezone 5 houses in that area, right? Coming from planning, which come before you guys sometimes. So I'm here today to urge you guys to just be a little bit more cautious and ask questions when planning is in here. Don't matter if it's a director, whomever it is, because if the community allowed them to rezone these 5 houses in the Grove Park area, then they can come in later and use that as precedent and say, oh, these houses are rezoned, so we can do this over here. This guy been building on these houses for 3 years, no permits.
2 minutes.
No plans. And then you got a council member advocating that the community let him rezone. I mean, that's not legal. That's not a council member job. It's not in your job description to do that. And when they come here in front of your board and ask that, I don't care if it's a colleague of yours, Mr. Dozier, Mr. Winston, Mr. Westmoreland, Mr. Amos, Mr. Lewis, we have to question that. Even when you have somebody here, when I look at this, Dana Barrett, who's a Fulton County chair, and I know that's the mayor appointment, but we need to ask ourselves, is this going to benefit the community, or is it going to benefit the person who appointed this lady over in Invest in Atlanta? We got to ask those questions. I've never seen an appointment that's supposed to benefit the community do such. It benefit those who appoint because they pledge allegiance to those who appoint them. You guys are responsible for pledging allegiance to people like myself, super voters.
1 minute.
That live in the community, serve in the community, and pay taxes. So we got to just stop. You four here, you know what I'm saying, because they was tired of the old guard. You know what I'm saying, y'all were here to make change and affect change. We can't go along and get along. We can't do that, man. It's time out for that. The city is going down in flames. And we just have to stand up, man. And I'm not saying I always rock the boat, but sometimes we got to ask questions, open our eyes, and we just can't say, oh, we didn't know, or y'all didn't let us know. You know what I'm saying? If it smells fishy, we know it's fishy, man. We have a council member that is speaking tonight, NPUJ, asking them to let this man rezone houses that he've already put 4 houses on a single-family lot.
30 seconds.
And we cannot allow that, man. You're the chairperson, Mr. Dozier. We cannot allow that to happen on our watch and your watch as the chairperson, man. So I just ask you humbly, you know, to just look into that, man. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. All right, next speaker is Sandra Kruger. Did I say that correctly? Just want to thank you all once again for writing so legibly.
Thank you. I'm just going to take just a few seconds to echo some of the comments of my park colleagues. My name is Sandra Kruger. I'm the executive director for the Olmsted Linear Park Alliance. While we do struggle with our own maintenance issues, stormwater issues, I do want to sort of lift up those who have spoken and those who have not spoken today but still have the same issues that we continue to have in our communities. For me, when we devalue our community and we don't value the nature spaces and the open spaces, we dehumanize our communities, and we're not taking care of them and maintaining them as they should be maintained. We're basically telling people we don't care. And I know we do care. And so that's why I'm asking if you will please just consider, the maintenance a priority for these parks and green spaces, because as we know, during the pandemic, they were our saving grace, and they continue to be. We need to maintain these communities for our generations that come after us. This is not a present issue. This is something that's generational, so we need to take that in consideration. And I just say, in closing, Atlanta has an opportunity to be a catalyst for transformational change. And we have an opportunity to showcase to the rest of the world. We do a lot of things right. We've done a lot of things wrong, but I think this is one opportunity that we can really shine. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lesford Duncan.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Lesford Duncan. I'm the CEO with Greening Youth Foundation, one of the nonprofits founded, rooted, based here in Atlanta, and one of the member organizations of the Green Space Advisory Council. I'm here in support of many of my park advocate colleagues, asking for this council to really prioritize maintenance for our parks, not only for the reasons mentioned by my colleagues in terms of making sure that our city remains beautiful, making sure that our residents feel valued, but also because it creates a unique opportunity also for youth employment within our city, in a city where especially Black youth are underemployed. Employment rates amongst Black youth are significantly higher than the unemployment rate that has been declining here in the city of Atlanta and across Georgia and the U.S. Greening Youth Foundation is a nonprofit focused on cultivating the next generation of diverse environmental leaders. And so we're really proud to partner with the Department of Parks and Rec to provide opportunity for youth that are disconnected from employment opportunities, disconnected from school, youth that are at risk for not only homelessness, substance abuse issues, violence and so forth, connecting them to viable career opportunities in the green space environment as well. And so we want to stand in partnership with many of our parks advocates, with the Mayor's Green Space Advisory Council, with Park Pride, to really encourage this council to prioritize the maintenance of our green spaces here in Atlanta. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Zita Stanley Sartor.
Good evening, council members. Good afternoon, rather. My name is Zita Stanley Sauter. I live at 215 Piedmont Avenue, which is at the Landmark Condominiums. And I am here for a change, and this is not me, for the STR of limiting the number of Airbnb people in our condo building. Our building is a building. That's what I live in, a 20-story building. Well, let me put it this way. When the fire alarm goes off, everybody has to evacuate. If you're in a house with Airbnb, if the fire alarm goes off, guess who evacuates? Just the residences. Investors are the people who run our board, because we had an illegal board election last November. Therefore, the investors who have a significant number of Airbnb properties, they run our board right now. We're in court, so we're trying to get that fixed. And the investors, they're just there to supplement their income. I said supplement. Now, I'm an owner. I live there. And my quality of life is severely damaged. Our buildings, our doors do not lock from the outside. I'm not talking about my personal condo. I'm talking about the outside doors. They don't lock. The building is filthy, not nasty, filthy. The Airbnb people throw trash. The man comes over and cleans up. They throw trash right out while he's out there. And then we get fined saying that, our parking lot is real nasty. I have been to every city department I thought I could go to regarding this whole thing. We have loud music and parties and with no adult supervision. We have weed smoking, and the Airbnb people do not have a host. That is what's severely needed, according to the legislation, for their guests. They do not host them, and then they don't vet them. They don't vet anybody.
30 seconds.
Okay, in a small 850 square foot unit, 6 to 8 people can be in there with 1 bed and 1 bathroom. So that is our problem. Our utilities are paid through our HOA, that's heat, water, and power. So what they do is they use up all that stuff, and then we, the owners, we have to pay for it. That's who's paying for it, not the Airbnb people. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jamila Mandigal. Okay. All right, and our final speaker is Kobe Robinson.
Mr. Chair.
Good evening.
Good afternoon.
My name is Kobe Robinson. I'd like to say I'm thankful for your public service. I was with my wife since I was 13. We left Indiana, and we came down here, and y'all did a lot to save her. She died at 47. I'm here to say that the fire department came and saved my wife a lot here in Georgia, and in Indiana, they saved my mom a lot. So I went to Notre Dame. It's called the Aqua Center. I kind of like started a fight picking. I said, let's fundraise and make it fun. I had a fire departments from each city, kind of like AAU, raise money for each city for an event. So you host one in Indiana, come down here, kick your butt. Or Chicago, come down there and you go kick their butt, whoever it is with the fire department swimming event or riding bike events for cancer or for the homeless. And you got a lot of juvenile kids in play, but they got IEP problems. They're not in there because of attitudes, they're in there because they can't understand. Because in Chicago, when you look down on people, even in adult life where they don't comprehend, you might pick up something faster than me. And I might need the extra time like you do the ACT or SAT. They might need that fair time as far as being a fireman or a policeman because they can't, it's a chemical imbalance. So I need you to step outside yourself and look at that. And also the juvies, instead of doing community service, teach them a trade, plumbing, truck driving. If the bigger the non-for-profits, the bigger the grants, so they save you money. You can lease stuff to the LLCs to save money. I went to school, University of Nebraska, for track. My wife died. I've been with her since I was 13. So I'm just saying, if you network, Elkhart, Indiana said they were to entertain you at the Aqua Center and raise money for cancer, for special needs, period. Old people, anything, special needs, anything. Strokes, cops losing limbs. That way the fire department, police department can get their funding, taxes can be lowered, and kids with the night programs got something to do. And then you guys are active, because Mayor Washington saved my life in Chicago, so I was joyriding. It's a long story, but I'm saying you guys need to be more visible. There's a lot of shortage of men, and you got a lot of men that's in the fire department, police department. And sometimes punitive, when my grades was down, one of the football coaches made me run 3 miles, 3K, military, to get my GPA up. That's how I got to Nebraska. So I'm just saying, maybe if we step outside ourselves, and I got the fire chief named Chief Edgerton. He says he's willing to entertain and support Church City for fundraising with his fire department, the police department, Wayne Bias, Mayor Robinson of Elkhart, Indiana. Then I got to talk to Lightfoot when I get back up to Chicago. But I'm saying something like AAU. And if you take a look, I just need help with it, but it's an idea. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. All right, that concludes public comment.
Mr. Dozier, I got here late, and
The public comment sign-in period is already closed, Mr. Shakir. We, it is right now because we need to move forward with the agenda. I know you come pretty regularly, Mr. Shakir. I know we'll continue to hear from you in upcoming meetings, but the public comment sign-in period has been closed. So we're going to move forward with the agenda.
Really, Mr. Dozier? We'll remember that. We remember that. Thank you, sir.
All right, the next item on the agenda, colleagues, if you will do me a favor, even though presentations is next, we have at least 4 individuals here to speak on their appointments. I would like to take those first, and then we'll move into the presentations. Seeing no issues, please move forward with the first caption.
Pick item number 3, it's 23C 5030, a communication from council members Dustin Hillis, Andrea L. Boone, Marcy Collier Overstreet, Antonio Lewis, Keisha Shawn Waits, appointing Mr. Scott Walker to serve as a member of the Housing Commission. This appointment is for a term of 2 years.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. If you could come to the podium, and if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are interested in this appointment.
Good afternoon, everybody. Scott Walker. I am the President and Chief Executive Officer of a nonprofit called Three Keys here in Atlanta. Our organization provides housing, supportive housing, and permanent supportive housing, and other services to individuals that have disabilities, that being mental illness and/or substance use disorders. Part of the reason why I want to be part of the Housing Commission is over my 30-plus years of working as a social worker. All of my efforts have been mission-driven to provide services to the underserved. I believe being on the commission will allow me to further that mission, and I look forward to working with the other housing members as well.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from colleagues? Councilmember Lewis. Motion by Lewis, second by Winston. Seeing no discussion, please open the vote.
The vote is open. Now it's open. And the vote is closed.
And the motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Walker. Thank you for your service to the city of Atlanta.
Thank you for the opportunity. Have a great day.
And there will be one more vote for full council, but this is the only portion where you have to actually come in person. All right, next item.
Item number 4, 23C 5031, a communication from Mayor Andre Dickens appointing Fulton County Commissioner Dana Barrett to serve as a member of the Atlanta Development Authority Board of Directors, DBA Invest Atlanta. This appointment is for a term of 4 years.
Commissioner Barrett, good to see you. And likewise, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, why you're interested in this appointment, and we'll go from there.
I am Fulton County Commissioner Dana Barrett. I am newly elected to the County Commission, but have lived in the greater Atlanta area for 35 years and have lived in all parts, including the city of Atlanta, where I now reside, and have seen the value of having all of the city of Atlanta thrive, and how that helps not only the city itself, but the surrounding area and the state. I have been very familiar with Invest Atlanta's work starting back in 2014, I believe it was, when I interviewed Brian McGowan on my radio show and got to learn a lot about what Invest Atlanta was doing. That continued down the road a couple of years after that. I interviewed Dr. Klementich, and I've toured the offices. I've gotten to know a lot of the work that's done there. So when I came on board to the Fulton County Commission, I was very excited to get the appointment to serve on Invest Atlanta and represent the county. So of course, we at the county want to make sure that we're participating and helping, again, that rising tide to lift all boats.
Thank you. Opening up to colleagues, Councilmember Westmoreland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 3 things. One, Mr. Robinson isn't in the room anymore, but I figured I'd clarify for the public that your appointment isn't actually from the mayor, but from your colleagues on the commission. Second, it's my understanding that Councilmember Winston actually appeared on your show at some point in the past.
Yes, I've been very tied to the city for a long time.
Third, it's a privilege to endorse this candidacy, and I will make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Councilmember Westmoreland. I'll go ahead and second. Any other discussion from colleagues? Seeing none, please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, the motion is accepted, 5 yeas, 0 nays. And Commissioner Barrett, congratulations. I look forward to serving alongside you at the Invest Atlanta Board, and I look forward to collaborating with you across government. So
Likewise, thank you so much.
thank you. All right, next item.
Item number 5, 23R3225, a resolution by Committee on Council appointing Ms. Sarah Stein to the Board of Directors for the Atlanta Development Authority, DBA Invest Atlanta, as the City Council appointee in the business category for a term of 4 years, said term to begin upon approval of this resolution and for other purposes.
Ms. Stein, once again, good to see you. And tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in this appointment.
Absolutely, a pleasure to be here. My name is Sarah Stein. I'm a resident of Antonio Lewis's district, number 12. And I'm honored to be appointed, or to be considered nominated for appointment to the Invest Atlanta Board. I served as an attorney at Atlanta Legal Aid for many years, representing Atlantans across the city, and witnessed deeply their struggles and the struggles that they experienced within their neighborhoods, and the experience of development that was happening around them. I currently serve as senior advisor at the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta on the Economic and Community Development Committee, and in that position, I'm really able to bring knowledge and research in together with engagement across our district to see how communities can thrive and build economic resilience and mobility. And so I think that experience would allow me as a board member to really think about equitable development across our city, and to consider equity in terms of historical equity and present day development. And I hope to be able to do that and to serve both the Invest Atlanta entity and the city of Atlanta in that position.
Thank you. Opening up to colleagues, Councilmember Lewis.
Congratulations, because when you were up there speaking, I was thinking about what would I say. And some of the wording that you used was mobility and equity. And I counted equity over 10 times. So I'll say that I'll move approval. And I'm happy that you live in District 12. I can't wait to see you bring Invest Atlanta eyes on District 12, particularly in the corridor that I've been talking to folks about.
Motion by Lewis, second by Westmoreland. See no additional discussion. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Motion is favorable, 5 yeas, 0 nays. Congratulations, Ms. Stein. And thank you for your continued service to the city of Atlanta. But I also want to just acknowledge, I know Dr. Clementich with Invest Atlanta has been bugging us about getting that board fleshed out so we can make quorum. So we got you some relief. So just excited about that. All right. We have one more communication, correct?
The committee will need to refer this item.
Oh, yes, thank you so much. So we actually have to take one more vote to refer this communication back to Committee on Council. And so I would actually move to refer to Committee on Council. Second by Winston. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, this has been referred. 4 yeas, 0 nays. All right, next item.
Last appointment is number 34, 23C5015, a communication from council members Jason Winston, Amir Faroki, Byron D. Amos, Jason Dozier, and Michael Julian Bond, appointing Ms. Sarah Butler to serve as a member of the Atlanta Beltline Affordable Housing Advisory Board. This appointment is for a term of 2 years.
Ms. Butler, now we have you at the podium.
Thank you.
Like stated with the other individuals, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in this appointment.
Sure, thank you. So I moved here 20 years ago, and I was a young architect. I was super excited, all the potential in Atlanta for development. And now that I've lived here and worked here for 20 years as an architect and raised my 2 children here, it's really important to me that we maintain the diversity and
She used my word equity too. And I thought, you know, architects, we understand affordable housing deals, and we're also creative thinkers and problem solvers. So I feel like I can bring those skills to that board.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for colleagues? Well, before we accept the motions, we have to wait for one more person to get back for quorum. Temporarily lost quorum. Hold that thought. Any questions for Ms. Butler while we wait? All right. Motion by Winston. I'm going to take that as a second by Lewis. Please open the vote.
Vote is open.
All right, the motion is adopted. Congratulations, Ms. Butler. Thank you for your service to the City of Atlanta. All right, moving back to our, I believe that's the last item that we need to take for vote. All right, perfect. And colleagues, we will return back to communications. There's a couple of items that we'll need to hold. So that's not the end of communications, but just want y'all to be aware of that. All right, so we had 3 presentations initially scheduled for today. For our first presentation, Catherine Vassell with Partners for Home with the Continual Care Quarterly Update. Unfortunately, Ms. Vassell was not able to join us last minute change, but she did provide an update which you all have printed copies of in front of you as well. I believe was emailed out. So we will have Partners for Home and Continuum Care come back before us for our next quarterly update, recognizing that pushing this to the right would end up butting against that. So the update is in your inboxes and in front of you, but Ms. Vassell just won't be here this afternoon to present before us. So with that being said, our next presentation is Clyde Higgs with Atlanta Beltline.
So good afternoon. My name is Clyde Higgs. I'm the president and CEO for Atlanta Beltline, Inc. And I also want to stop and recognize my colleague, Jill Johnson, who heads up government affairs for the Beltline. So just before we get officially started, I do want to boot up a video and talk about 2022. And this is kind of our thank you letter, kind of our love letter to the city of Atlanta for all of the push for making really 2022 perhaps in many ways our best year in our existence. From a funding perspective, from an affordable housing perspective, 2022 was in many ways spectacular. Now, I don't want to describe that as a victory lap, but it is purely a love letter to the city of Atlanta. So if you could boot that video, please.
"2022 has been a mosaic of progress as Atlanta Beltline, Inc. continues to bring the Atlanta Beltline vision to life. Let's take a look at the big wins of the year. 1. New funding sources secured. The Beltline received substantial philanthropic and federal grant support for trail construction from the Woodruff Foundation, the James M. Cox Foundation, as well as a congressional appropriations bill and the Atlanta Regional Commission's Transportation Improvement Program. In addition, funding from the U.S. Department of Commerce's Economic Development Administration and the Candida Fund went towards small business support programs. ABI also began spending Special Service District, or SSD dollars to advance trail construction. 2. The full loop design plan identified. After ABI and the Path Foundation wrapped up a year-long feasibility study of the Northwest Trail, a preferred route has been identified for the final quadrant of the loop. And get this, within the next 2 years, 80% of mainline trail will be built or under construction. 3. Exceeding affordable housing goals. We celebrated several closings, groundbreakings, and ribbon-cutting ceremonies with partners, and wrapped up the year with the closing of 421 affordable housing units. This exceeds our annual affordable housing goal by 31%. We are now over halfway to our goal of 5,600 units by 2030. 4. Beltline Marketplace. 6 minority businesses were selected to participate in the pilot Beltline Marketplace program, which provides affordable commercial space directly on the Atlanta Beltline. The businesses set up shop in customized containers on the west side and east side trails, allowing them to tap into more than 2 million visitors. 5. opening of West Side Trail Segment 3. The public can now enjoy 1.2 miles of new trail following the ribbon cutting of the West Side Trail Segment 3, which runs along Murrieta Boulevard. 6. Construction on Northeast Trail Segment 2. Construction began on the Northeast Trail Segment 2 Phase 2 behind Ansley Mall to install lighting, security cameras, landscaping, and build out the paved trail for a full 1.2 miles. 7. Selection of Murphy Crossing finalist. ABI officially selected real estate development company Cul-de-sac Inc. with Atlanta-based Urban Oasis Development as the finalist for the much-anticipated redevelopment of the 20-acre Murphy Crossing site. 8. Art provoked new conversations. The Atlanta Beltline welcomed the region's first Indigenous Stickball Summit, united some of Atlanta's most celebrated style writers, and brought many new murals, sculptures, and performances to the Beltline with the annual Art on the Atlanta Beltline exhibition. 9. Beltline Transit Progress. MARTA, in coordination with ABI and the City of Atlanta, reached 30% design plans for expanding the streetcar from downtown to Pond City Market. The Streetcar East Extension Project is the first step towards bringing transit to the Beltline. 10. Lantern Parade on the West Side Trail. For the first time ever, the West Side Trail hosted the beloved Atlanta Beltline Lantern Parade, drawing a crowd of an estimated 10 to 15,000 people. As you can see, the gears have shifted. We're moving full steam ahead in constructing this massive transformational project. None of this would have been possible without our partners, stakeholders, and the community. Here's to a great year, and here's to the bright future we're building together for the generations to come.
All right, thank you for indulging us in that video, and please don't let my real relaxed style belie how big a deal 2022 was for the entire city of Atlanta, and specifically the Atlanta Beltline. And so if you did not catch this, please understand this is a huge moment for us. So literally within the next 24 months, 80% of the Beltline will be completed or under construction. That's game changing. And I will tell you, if it weren't for the SSD, the philanthropic fundraising, the federal funds, the state funds, we would not be in this position. And I will tell you, 3 years ago, if anyone asked me, like, Clyde, when is the Beltline Trail Network going to be finished? I really could not give you a firm, fixed answer on a date. But now that we can say with certainty that the Beltline Trail will be completed at least by 2030. So that is a big deal for us. And just real quick, I'll just go through these slides and give you a glimpse into 2023. We're actually going to host 2 groundbreakings for new segments along the Beltline. The first being on the 13th of March, and this is going to be for Southside Trail segments 4 and 5. And so, Councilmember Winston, thank you for being willing to be there for that groundbreaking. But super excited about that. I like to describe the Southside Trail in many ways as the holy grail for the Beltline, because ultimately when we finish that, it will connect East Side Trail to West Side Trail. So this is game changing for us. And then also on the West Side Trail segment 4, we are going to host a groundbreaking on the 22nd of March. And Councilmember Amos, I know we were working with your office to figure out if we can work with your travel plan so that you can be there as well. But again, another significant milestone along the Beltline. We expect that project to be completed in roughly 2 years. And then obviously on the Northeast Northeast Trail segment 2, this is the finalization of phase 2 of this segment. We expect to actually be finished with that the latter part of this year, and then we'll finish off some of the landscaping pieces just for growing season in the first quarter of 2024. And then on the affordable housing side, you heard in that video that we were very proud of actually exceeding our annual affordable housing goal by over 30%. And we must give a big shout out to all the agencies that really push housing affordability within the city of Atlanta for helping us with that. But what you will see in 2023 is a unique focus on land acquisition. So you can expect perhaps some announcements in 2023 about us securing additional land around the Beltline for future housing affordability and commercial affordability as well. And I think that's a conversation that we really need to have in our city, even beyond just the housing piece. And then also on the affordable housing side, this is a big deal for us. So we control some land in the South Buckhead area. So this is Piedmont and Garson. And so we just put this request for proposal out on the street where we are going to have an opportunity to have a new housing development, again, right off of the Beltline. This was a site that was formerly owned by Wells Fargo that they sold to the Beltline for a significant discount. And then ultimately what that will allow us to do is have deeper and longer term affordability because there is not this heavy land basis cost that we have to push over to the developer. So proposals are due in early May, so very excited about that. And we need affordability all throughout our city, and so this is a good example of what is to come. And then you may remember that we have this really big push, and we had a conversation during the Special Service District to say that Beltline is going to have this significant focus on small business. And so the EDA, the Economic Development Administration, just awarded the Beltline a little less than $800,000 to bring kind of this one-stop shop concept to support small businesses along the Atlanta Beltline. And what you see in this slide here is a business breakfast of just getting some of those businesses kind of inform what we're hoping to do and how we can support them as the Beltline continues to grow. And the SIP, this is our strategic implementation plan for the Beltline. And for those that don't know, this is essentially our business plan for the Atlanta Beltline to completion. And so we are going through a refresh of that business plan, and we're going to have a number of community meetings over the next week or so just to get input on what that plan should read as. And so super excited about this, but what this will do will bring in trail, transit, affordable housing, economic development, all the things that we're responsible for under this one plan. The initial plan did not have those elements all under one umbrella. And then lastly, we are excited that the Atlanta Parade will be in your district again, Councilmember Dozier, and that will be on May 20th. We had a great showing last year. Not only did Commissioner Dozier come out, but we also had Congresswoman Nakima Williams to come out. It was just a festive event, and so we look forward to that again on the 20th of May. And so with that, that leads me to the conclusion of our official report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before I turn it over to colleagues, just a couple quick questions. And the first is, I know you all get beat up by my Westview folks about this all the time, but Noda Park, what updates can I share back with my community?
Absolutely, and that's a fair beat up. So one of the things that we are trying to think through is how can we, even from a TAD perspective, make more contributions to that. The original master plan or original plan behind Noda was to use philanthropic dollars to fund that. So that wasn't really contemplated to be heavily on the TAD budget. But the Atlanta Beltline Partnership they have a number of proposals out. And so we hope that this $15 million project will have half private funds and then maybe half public funds. And there's also some money in the T-SPLOST budget to support that as well. But if you're asking me, I feel very confident that we're going to figure out a way to capitalize that project.
Thank you. And then Beltline Marketplace, I know it had a great launch last year. I will admit, with the weather being rainy and cold the last couple months, I haven't been out that way in some time, but as things are starting to warm, it's a nice day outside right now, and I wish we could move a community meeting outside one of these days.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
But I'm curious how things are going as you're going to start seeing more foot traffic, any sort of lessons learned or opportunities that you're going to build on as going to the next.
Absolutely. So for those that don't know, so Beltline Marketplace is the Beltline's first foray into the business incubator space. And this is a conversation about commercial affordability. So we have set up containers around the Beltline, and we've allowed these small businesses to operate in this space at a very reduced price. I think we charge maybe $250, $300 a month for these containers, and it is Beltline frontage. So we have a location on the west side, we have a location on the east side. So the plan is actually to expand it. And so we go through a hiatus during the winter periods because, we just know the foot traffic isn't the same as the spring and the summer and the fall. And so you will see some additional activity now that the weather is starting to warm up. But lots of lessons learned there. And so we're trying to perfect that. It wasn't a perfect program, but we learned a lot, and we feel like it is worthwhile to expand that. And so you will see some additional activities there. We continue to work with the Village Market and Dr. Key. They're our partner to do due diligence on selecting the companies. But for the most part, the feedback has been very positive. Yeah.
Okay. And then just my last thing is a comment. Really excited about the Lantern Parade coming back in May. It had a blast last year. I know folks will have a blast this year. The one feedback that I got from the broader community is the more advanced notice that can be provided to neighbors about the event, recognizing that, when the whole city descends upon West End at one time, folks, in some cases, folks, couldn't get into their driveways and things like that. So we'll work to help get the word out with the West End Neighborhood Development and with MPUT. But we all had a blast last year, just thinking of areas of improvement, education piece, if any.
Absolutely. Absolutely. May 20th, May 20th, yes.
And then I know this is more of Atlanta Beltline Partnerships lane, but also looking forward to the next West Side 5K. I have a friendly wager with some of my colleagues about who's going to finish that the fastest, but looking forward to getting more folks out onto the Beltline in District 4 and in District 12 and making sure that people see our part of town for what it really is. And that's a wonderful, vibrant place that is the place to be. And we're excited just to help advance that.
I appreciate that, and can't promise I'm going to be out there with you, but I'm getting there. Yeah. But at some point, we hope that we're going to, when we finish the entire loop, we're going to have a Beltline marathon at some point, and that's going to be an exciting day. But
I will not be there for that, but I'll leave that to Council President Shipman to run that one. But I appreciate that. All right. Up next, we have Councilman Winston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm really excited. We are basically joined at the hip for the next 26 months. I mean, most of the projects are coming through District 1 that are, nearing construction or will be in construction pretty much after that. To me, the holy grail is segment 2 and 3. Segment 2 and 3 is the game changer where we truly get to see the vision of the Beltline as a transportation mode for citizens throughout the city of Atlanta. Can you speak more about the timeline? Because some of the conversations I'm having, I know that the construction on that is happening, I guess in September of 2023 is what we're projecting. But I know it's rolling 24 months, and I know people are getting some of that confused with 4 and 5. So I just want to know if you can speak a little bit more clearly about that that piece.
Yeah. So the entire South Side Trail is obviously important, but for segments 2 and 3, so for those that don't know what we're talking about, we are making reference to essentially Pittsburgh Yard all the way to Boulevard. And so this is a very important segment. We hope to have the RFP out for that this calendar year. And whenever that goes out, it's going to take us roughly about 24 months to finish the construction on that. Yes, the goal is September. We're trying to get there. Can't fully promise that it's going to be September yet in full disclosure, but that's the goal.
Okay, perfect. And I know, Council's Districts 12 and 1 both connect there, so I know Councilmember Lewis is just as excited about that as I am. Also, on the affordable housing piece, I know that's something that's been a big part of what 2022 was about. I know that's something that we'll continue to see. Can you talk about any potential projects in that area, how they are connected to the Beltline transportation piece, for segments 2, 3, 4, 5 that are on the way?
Yeah, so typically we try to not talk about our real estate deals in a public setting, just because we want to obviously curate the right experience there. But I can tell you that there's going to be a focus on the South Side Trail from an affordable housing perspective. It is not quite ready for public or prime time, but it is a focus for us, and definitely we'll talk to you offline about some of those happenings there.
Okay, and then also want to talk about collaboration with your partners. I know I was recently in a conversation with folks at MARTA. We'll have the Summerhill BRT that's coming online soon. I know you've been working with the Path Foundation about creating more connectivity to the Beltline Trail. Can you just speak a little bit more about, working with those partners and how you see the vision of transportation being expanded through those partnerships?
Absolutely. So obviously MARTA is a key partner with regards to transit on the Atlanta Beltline. I will tell you, we have robust conversations with MARTA. I would say, 80% of the time we're all on the same page. Perhaps 20% of the time we are not, but that's okay. You're building infrastructure for generations to come. And I think you're going to actually hear from MARTA in your next committee, or at least at transportation, and they'll have hopefully a full update on how MARTA is going to push transit along the Beltline and throughout the entire city. From a Beltline perspective, what we are really focused on is making sure whatever transit lands in the Beltline corridor is absolutely beautiful. Because some of the anti-transit rhetoric that I hear from time to time is really about aesthetics. It's like, oh, I don't want a fast train barreling down the Beltline corridor. But when you really demystify what it could be, what it could look like, how it could feel, then people's minds start to change about that. So we're here to really provide good support to MARTA, to the city of Atlanta, and to make sure that we curate something that lasts for generations and is not just focused on kind of the low-cost opportunity there.
And I'll say that, from your last public engagement session surrounding segments 4 and 5, I was really excited to see that there was planning for future transit use, along the new segments. And I think that's something that gets overlooked a lot, that a lot of people don't think that you all are coordinating or planning for that. But I was excited to see that portion is being planned for and thoroughly being thought out. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you for saying that. Yep.
Hey, Councilmember Winston. Councilmember Lewis.
And Councilmember Winston stole a lot of the things I was going to talk to you about. Because I was going to mainly focus on segment 2 and 3, and to see, my quote was, how much money do you need to actually get those done? Because I like when the Beltline comes in here, because I like to see the word shovel ready. And I like seeing that shovel ready stuff. So how much money do you need to actually get 2 and 3 done?
So it's great that we actually have the money in place to finish 2 and 3. So we are literally just doing some coordination on utilities and with the appropriate organizations to get that into a place of being fully shovel ready, where we can actually submit an RFP. And so that's why we're waiting on this timeline of maybe September, but definitely this calendar year, where we can actually start turning dirt. And once we start that process, you're looking at, again, about 24 months for us to construct it. So this is happening. We're in construction mode. So this is not a determination of if, but it's just the when we do it. But we have the money in place.
I appreciate that. And I was going to say, Councilmember Dozier, I'm glad it's a walk run. right? Because I'm gonna do the walking part, and I will say to Jill and to you that I think you could do the marathon now if it's open for us to run. I don't think it has to be completely paved. I think a lot of people would probably run this full circle. I would also say to MARTA, I'm just looking at the loop of the Beltline. It would be perfect if the partnership with MARTA, if we know some of these public-private partnerships don't work the same, but the one with y'all are working perfectly. But it would be the perfect loop to what the city of Atlanta needs, because you are a circle around us and they are doing a cross. And so it'd be a good loop if they could, I would implore them to talk to you about some of this stuff. You may show them how to put some shovels in the ground. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hey, any other questions or comments from colleagues? Seeing none. Thank you so much, Clyde.
All right, thank you very much,
both of
gentlemen.
you. All right, our next presentation, Invest Atlanta and WorkSource. Dr. Clementage.
Good afternoon. Hey, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Dr. Eloise Clementage, and I'm the proud president and CEO at Invest Atlanta. And this will be our quarterly update. Oh, here it is. So Invest Atlanta is on its third year of our economic mobility strategy, and we continue to focus on, this is the city's first economic development plan based on economic mobility, so you're going to see us continue to drive to these metrics of what are we doing to try to ensure that everyone, all Atlantans, can partake in the benefit that we're seeing in our economy. We're going to do that and aligning to the mayor's vision of an Atlanta, moving Atlanta forward, and this is really 4 basic areas, so city of opportunity, ethics, and efficient government, a city built for the future, and one safe city. So you'll see our presentation will align to these 4 areas. Overall, Invest Atlanta continues to be very focused and driven. So as I mentioned, in the economic mobility strategy that was approved here in City Council, we identified disinvested neighborhoods. These were areas of the city where we had not had the increase in terms of a concerted effort. And so we've aligned our work, and you can see the deliverable here. 45.7% of all the capital invested at Invest Atlanta has gone into the specific areas that we were told to focus on. With that, we're seeing jobs that we've touched, enabled, played a role in over 4,700 jobs here in the city of Atlanta. And that one number that I'm going to continue to watch is that $2.4 billion. So that's how much, if you think about direct investment and then leverage, meaning what the developer puts in, is direct, indirect, and induced. So what impact is our dollars doing? And that's $2.4 billion in the Atlanta economy. So this is an active map. You can find it on our website. Anyone here or watching can go in and see exactly where Invest Atlanta is investing, and you'll be able to go hover over each of the button, and it'll tell you what we did, what the amount was. I will mention the only ones that we redact information is when we do down payment assistance. We do not put the individual's name, but you can get a sense of where we've assisted in terms of down payment assistance, small business help. And you'll see a lot of that focus is in that disinvested neighborhoods, which is the red, orange, yellow, white part of the city. So what are we doing for our city of opportunity? Invest Atlanta last year, we had 12 multifamily development projects closed in the city, of which 1,637 are affordable housing units. So again, we are going to continue to focus on affordable housing. We're also going to measure, as a result of our strategy, how many of those are zero cost burden, meaning they're not paying more than 30% of their income on rent. This is going to be a key number for us. Because we're trying to think about how we empower individuals so they have more funding or more money in their accounts to spend on other needs in the city. And then the fun one for me, which is how many clients are served with home ownership programs. Of those that are served, 103 were served with down payment assistance. That means we were able to help 103 people call Atlanta home and own their own home. And I want to thank the City Council and the Mayor for their support through the Housing Opportunity Bond. That has been a main resource for us to be able to distribute and make more individuals part of the Atlanta community. In terms of owner-occupied rehab, we've been able to assist 60 individuals with their owner-occupied rehab. And this is not the HGTV, but this is handling roof repairs, plumbing repairs, lead repairs, whatever it is. The whole point that we want to ensure is that an individual is not displaced because they cannot make needed repairs to their home. And oftentimes, or more often than not, we are helping individuals that are on fixed incomes. So if something goes out, it means it's a decision between their medicine, food, or the repair. And so these are the type of individuals that we're trying to make a difference for and ensure that our legacy residents are staying in our city. We continue to focus on Atlanta's business and entrepreneurship area. This is really exciting, and again, I know I've said thank you, but I do want to thank you, and I would like the public to realize the American Rescue Plan dollars, these were federal dollars that we received. Cities, you were able to choose where you wanted to spend this money, and you decided to spend it in our businesses. It's making a difference. We've had over 724 businesses that we've been able to assist with technical assistance. So I know we all know of entrepreneurs, they'll say, oh, I just need financing. Well, oftentimes it's not just financing. I think of my dad who was horrible at finances. Thank goodness for my mom. So this technical assistance piece really helps businesses in terms of marketing and finance and financials or legal help. So it really helps to support the business to be be able to perform better here in the city and really be able to have higher benefits and higher reward here in our city. So total of 2,350 technical assistance hours provided. If you look at the focus, who are we helping? 68.9% of the businesses we've touched were Black-owned businesses, 58% were women-owned businesses, and 40% were in our disinvested neighborhoods. So again, it's a service that's really helping many of our minority businesses in the city. So we are out and about, and we wanted to ensure that the idea of economic mobility and equity is to meet someone where they are so that they don't necessarily need to come to 133, which is where Invest Atlanta is headquarters. They can go where they need to closer. And so these are all the offices that we have throughout the city. We have office hours. You could visit us virtually. You could come to one of our offices, or you could even come to 133. The whole point is to be where you are when you need the help. And so these are the different locations, and I want to ensure that people know that we have services available to them that they could come and learn more about. The American Rescue Plan. This is an exciting one, as I mentioned before. We were able to deploy $7.1 million. That number will actually be higher because we've just signed today. In fact, I think I signed the last resurgence agreement, and we will have deployed about $7.8 million out to businesses. I'm super excited, and I think you should be as well, because there are many cities that have not been able to get out their funds, but that is not the case for the city of Atlanta. We were able to disperse all of the Resurgence grant, and these were funding that came from Department of Treasury through the City Council to Invest Atlanta to deploy to our businesses. Here, if we look at our focus, 242 were small businesses, and if you look, 50.8% were in disinvested neighborhoods. Again, focusing in on how we can help businesses in this part of the city. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Monica to speak about the Women's Entrepreneur Initiative.
Thank you so much, Dr. Clementich, and thank you to our council members, Councilmember Lewis, Amos, Dozier, Winston, and Westmoreland. First of all, I'm delighted to report the progress of the Women's Entrepreneurship Initiative empowered by Invest Atlanta. To date, which is what we affectionately call our initiative, has had 5 cohorts matriculating through the program for a total of 75 businesses. And with 67% of our businesses reporting in 2022, I've got some fantastic numbers to share with you about this program. First, I want to make sure that you understand the program structure. We are an incubator, the nation's only municipally funded incubator of our kind, focused on early stage startups led by women. We're a 15-month program with a core curriculum focused on 4 pillars: business analysis, learning and leadership development, strategic partnerships, and funding opportunities. So as we kick off Women's History Month, let me report the program metrics. Program metrics, because these are really important. With our portfolio of 75 businesses, we've created 1,003 jobs for the City of Atlanta. This includes 159 full-time positions, 790 contract positions, and 54 internships. Women leading these businesses have garnered over $29.5 million in revenues. This is significant, and at least 5 of our WE businesses have garnered over $1 million in annual revenues. Our women have also collected a total of $7.3 million in capital investment, which beats the persistently low, almost 2% national average that you see in women and underserved founders investing. And that includes grants, low interest debt from portfolios like Invest Atlanta, venture capital. And in 2022, we increased what I'm calling our impact churn. We went from 15 businesses a year to servicing over 30 businesses a year with support, guidance, resources from the program. Also, through extended programming like the Women in the Workplace, we've touched 363 unique businesses with our programming. To end, let me let you know, we know that the program is impactful, but the best evidence of that impact comes from our entrepreneurs. With 88.9% of our reporting founders saying that the program is somewhat or very important to helping their businesses achieve success. And the WE program has a net promoter score of 65.9, which indicates a high level of satisfaction for the curriculum. We can say with confidence that the Women's Entrepreneurship Initiative is indeed impactful for the City of Atlanta, creating healthy, sustainable, equitable communities for women that are encouraged to have a seat at this table. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of council. My name is Noah Downer. I'm the interim Senior Vice President of Economic Development. I'm really excited to talk a little bit more about one of the programs that we have to support our small businesses, and that's the Wells Fargo Open for Business program. So as you recall, this is a $20 million investment that Invest Atlanta received to be able to support small businesses, and in particular through the lens of helping them grow and improve their real tangible assets. So we're going to talk quickly about 3 of the programs that you see in front of you. So first is the Atlanta Recovery Loan Program. This is a loan program that's set up, again, low cost, low interest rate to be able to assist those businesses with those loans for those tangible assets. Additionally, we have the Atlanta Commercial Down Payment Assistance Program. So we know this is incredibly important given the conversation we've had about affordability in our different business corridors. So how can we develop a program to be able to help those legacy business owners who perhaps have been renting for a long time and have aspirations to own their own place? So together, in conjunction with Wells Fargo, we have this program where we're able to extend a loan that essentially turns into a grant after a period of 10 years so that those business owners can own their actual commercial real estate space. And then the last program is the Atlanta Commercial Property Improvement Program. This is a grant program that provides up to $50,000 for internal and external improvement to small businesses. So you'll see there a little bit more than $500,000 in loans in 2022 with 35 businesses served. And I'm happy to report that year to date, we've really accelerated these numbers. The next thing that I'll talk about is our business retention and expansion, as well as our business attraction efforts. So in addition to all of the small business consultations and technical assistance programs and loan programs that I mentioned before, we also have a team who work alongside our businesses who we know are interested in moving into the city or who are expanding rapidly. So happy to announce close to $11,000, jobs worth of jobs created or retained in the city. With Eloisa mentioning earlier today, almost 5,000 new jobs created. But what we think is most important here is that we're laser focused on attracting those good jobs. So good jobs being jobs with benefits that pay between $40,000 and $80,000. So 70% of those numbers are in that good job category. So I'm very excited about that. And I believe I'm going to hand it over to Amy briefly.
Thank you, Noah. Good afternoon, council members and Chairman Dozier. So this slide covers both the jobs for vulnerable populations, wow, what a mouthful, and WorkSource Atlanta together combined for calendar year 2022. So altogether, you see over 2,615 individuals served, 957 enrolled in training, and then 315 placed in employment. And that was for calendar year 2022. When we look at WorkSource Atlanta specifically from the beginning of our program year, which is July 1 through January 31st, we've enrolled 174 adults, dislocated workers, and youth so far. We have a total of 497 on caseload, and we've provided over 976 services. We are on our performance metrics. We've got 12 metrics that we're focused on and graded on by the state. We are exceeding 10 out of 12 of those metrics. That's up from the last time I presented to you where we were just at 9. The 2 remaining metrics we've made progress on, and we expect to be in the green on those by the end of the program year. And those are in the same areas, measurable skills gains, and that's where we've implemented the TABE testing as a resource to help increase the metrics on that. On the program and admin side, we've added a partnership with Atlanta Tech. So we're out there once a week to help increase enrollment. In addition to all of the outreach efforts where we're going out to our various partners, Goodwill, at Georgia DOL's downtown office, at Westside Works, and I think there's a couple others that I'm forgetting. In addition to that, last month our board approved our participation in the regional outreach program. So that is where the 5 WorkSource boards in Metro Atlanta work together to do a social media campaign. And so that was very effective the first time. So we're really excited that that will be starting, and it just started a couple weeks ago. So we expect to see enrollment increase as a result of that as well. And then the big news that I'm really excited to share is we applied for the Quest grant through TCSG. We were awarded that grant, so that means an extra $700,000 to WorkSource Atlanta. In our grant proposal, that is specifically targeted towards long-term unemployed individuals who are either homeless or Justice Involved citizens. So this is we're really excited about this grant. We started the planning yesterday. We've got a lot of the right partners at the table, including Salvation Army, Gateway Center, Aerotropolis, the airport, CareerRise, CEO Works, and Urban League. So a lot of the people either on the business side, where transportation and logistics and construction are key needs, or on the community-based organization side where they're actually serving those individuals. So we're in the planning phase right now and look to start enrollment in April. So very excited about that new award. And I'll be here next time to get that legislated. And I think I pass it back to Noah.
Yes, good afternoon again. One of our target industry clusters is the creative industry, so supporting our creative entrepreneurs and small businesses is important to us on the economic development team. Excited that more than $300,000 were invested in those small businesses and programs in 2022. You'll see the 15 public events funded through the Elevate Atlanta grants, as well as the 13 individual artists who were supported through the CREATL grant fund. So CPACE is public financing that Invest Atlanta has access to be able to support. So let me first maybe explain PACE. It's property assessed clean energy program. So this is a program and financing that we have access to that's able to support structural property repairs and upgrades to help these buildings, these businesses save energy and water. So those are the three programs or buildings that we were able to support last year.
And I'll just add to that, that we are now taking that program and going to an open market. So excited, if you know of any developers that are interested, they can bring their own financing. So let me turn it off to Jennifer.
Thank you, Eloisa. Good afternoon. I just wanted to give you a 2022 kind of year-end snapshot of tax allocation districts, the projects we've been able to fund, and the types. Again, we come quarterly to give you updates of projects, so hopefully you feel like you're well tuned in, but I thought this was pretty important. So you can see here, and I think in the appendix, you actually have a line-by-line list of these projects, but we were able to deploy about $75 million to 19 different projects in 5 different TADs, which I think is really important to point out. Again, the diversity of project types and the range geographically of where we're able to deploy resources. Next slide, please. So, but what does that mean to the built environment? So we were able to use TAD dollars to help create over 1,400 units of housing, both single family and multifamily, for sale and rental. Of that 1,408, 905 were affordable, and that's on the single family for sale and the multifamily side. Single family for sale, I've said this before, I'll probably say it every time, is the most difficult to really get at affordability for sale. Very difficult. We're fortunate that we can use TAD and layer with different funding incentives that we have to really help drive these complicated, difficult projects to the finish line. Also important to note, all of our residential and commercial projects have an affordability component, and so on average we are able to get at least 20 years plus of affordability on the residential side. And you can see of those 18 projects represents just shy of 240,000 square feet of office, retail, commercial, nonprofit space. So again, a wide range of projects that we're able to incentivize through the city's tax allocation district program. Next slide, please. So far in 2023, we are just starting 2023, so not a lot of projects to go through, but really proud of this one that came to our board last month. This is in Sweet Auburn, right on the verge of Old Fourth Ward. We were able to provide an Eastside TAD grant to a nonprofit entity to rehab and move into this building that had been vacant for a number of years to help provide community-serving nonprofit business incubator, meeting space to really drive activation of a vacant property, as well as generate economic vitality and job creation within Sweet Auburn. Next slide, please. And I think back to Eloisa.
So let me just close with this. I'm sorry, we get really excited about what we do. Last slide, promise. Is we are really trying to become a world-class entity that you and Mayor's office can all be very proud of. So we are now, have instituted a Net Promoter Score. This is in industry. We are providing service and then asking in businesses, how well are we doing? And we're getting real-time feedback. And so you'll see on the left is what is the Net Promoter Score. We have about a 51.1% for our Atlanta in business. That puts us right in the great category. My goal is to get us into the excellent category. We also have an online chat. So if there's anyone on our watching us that wants to talk to us online, we also, anybody who engages with Invest Atlanta, we send them a survey, say, how well did we answer your question? And we get a 4.78 out of 5. So just know that we want to be the most responsive, and we're really watching our customer service, because at the end of the day, we're here to serve all Atlantans. And with that, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Clementich. Before I turn the floor over to colleagues, I just have 2 quick questions. The first one, I know this body just approved the nomination for Commissioner Barrett. Just wanted to get a sense from Invest Atlanta, how are things with Fulton County more generally? I know there was some concern about the county pulling out of the corridor TADs, but if you can maybe talk through y'all's perspective, how that relationship is going.
Well, I want to thank the Fulton County Commissioners. They did ask us for information about the Eastside TAD. We sent all that over, and we've received a correspondence back that they see the good work that we're doing and that they will continue their participation in the corridor TADs and the Eastside TAD. They, as we mentioned to them, we will be looking to close the Princeton Lakes TAD, so you'll be seeing a resolution probably quite soon that will go to that end. But thank goodness we have a good relationship, and I will be going to their meetings quarterly as well, just to make sure that they have an update of all the actions that were taking place.
Thank you so much for that. And then my last question is kind of a big question. I hate asking questions because I know I see you at least 3 times a month, and between the board retreats, and you're very responsive on text. But this is something that I really started thinking about recently, because we always, not always, but we seem to be comparing the amount of investments happening in the city of Atlanta over these next 2 years in support of the World Cup to what we went through back in the 90s with the Olympics. And I know it's kind of anecdotal, it's part of our mythos, but you know, when the Olympics came, we brought a lot of business down, and a lot of those businesses stayed, a lot of population, a lot of people stayed. Have we been thinking about economic development opportunities in light of the FIFA World Cup? So before the event happens, after the event, how are you thinking about FIFA as it pertains to investment in the city?
Yes, we're seeing this as an opportunity to galvanize and get support, but what we recognize is we're not going to go at this alone. So we're looking at our partners too. So we're reaching out now to the state, we're reaching out to Metro Chamber, we're reaching out to some of the other smaller economic development agencies, business associations, and trying to come up with a comprehensive plan of how we can all support and move it forward. At the end, we want to see growth in our businesses. We'd love to see them to be able to partake in the benefits as a result of hosting the World Cup. So the answer is yes, we're on it, and that's Mr. Noah's job.
Thank you so much for that. Turning it over to my colleagues, Councilmember Winston.
Thank you, and this may actually be a question for Noah. A lot of times we get contacted when businesses in our district want help with an application for the Wells Fargo Open for Business grants or loans. But can you speak to probably the #1 reason businesses may get denied? I think it may help us with communication in terms of letting them know kind of what to look for when they're doing their applications.
Thank you for the question. And yes, to highlight, we actually had a recent Wells Fargo investment to be able to further support the technical assistance on the loan and grant side, so we're very excited about that. Typically what happens is our programs require 2 or 3 years of business taxes. And so what our team of underwriters do is that they package the loan, they take a look at how the dollars are going to be used, they then present that before a credit review committee. And so ultimately, it's an external body that's able to say yes or no on the different loans. But if I would say the #1 would be they're not located in the city of Atlanta. Beyond that, I would say it's the necessity and the requirement of having business taxes and then your financial statements in order so that you can ultimately pay the debt and the interest itself. But happy to have a deeper one-on-one conversation and bring in the small business loans team. It's a dedicated team of 4 members who do this every single day.
Got it. Yeah, I just think if we can help articulate that process a little bit more, it can kind of alleviate some of the back and forth.
Absolutely.
If we know someone doesn't qualify for various reasons, or we know they need to provide, further information up front, then, they won't have their expectations let down if, they know they don't have the proper paperwork up front. So definitely something that I think we could help you all with in terms of being explain that to folks who may need that help.
And I would just add, that's why the technical assistance is so important. We literally this time did it different. We put the technical assistance up front before we opened applications so that if businesses had questions or needed help before applying, they could prepare their applications. So again, I would just say ensure if any business approaches you and says, I need help, go to technical assistance. It's free. They're not the same that are reviewing. They'll help you prepare your applications to then come to us because we want to award you.
And then my other question, and this is pretty new. You all last week, I think, became the stewards of a large donation from Tyler Perry to be able to help folks who need paying off tax liens with their homes. I don't know if you can speak to the specifics of how we might be able to help people identify whether or not they're eligible for those funds and in the process for helping them, get their tax liens paid off.
Yes. Well, first, I'd like to definitely thank Mr. Perry for that large donation. It really has changed, is really going to impact many, many individuals. So the list, there is no way to apply. What was basically done was we reached out to both, working with the Invest Atlanta Partnership, which is the nonprofit arm. They've asked us to reach out to both Fulton County and DeKalb County. And we said, could you pull all of the seniors that had delinquent taxes from about 2010 to today? And they literally pulled the list and handed us the list. Those are the individuals that those taxes will be paid. So the key for that was seniors, delinquent taxes. Please, if anyone's watching, any senior, you do not need to do anything. You do not need to fill an application. Please do not, if someone comes at your door and says, hey, you need to qualify, do not, there's no application fee, there's nothing. We will just pay those taxes, those delinquent taxes, and those seniors will be notified.
That's my question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Lewis, and then Councilmember Amos.
Thank you so much for always being so open and jumping on a quick Zoom or whatever we need you to do. I appreciate you for that. Thank you also for explaining the tax payment by Mr. Tyler Perry. We truly appreciate him for us reaching into his pocket and investing in the city of Atlanta the way that he did. That's the largest investment he's made, and I'm happy to be the city council person when he made that investment. So I also want to add in one thing. Most people, a lot of people living in, a lot of our seniors, they're living in owner-occupied houses, but they need help with repairs. What programs does Invest Atlanta have to, and how can we streamline them to you to get the help that they need?
Yes, thank you to the vote that was taken here about the Housing Opportunity Bond. We are closing up our first phase of owner-occupied rehab. This is the program to help individuals to make these needed repairs. And we will begin and open up our next program, and that will be an opportunity where we'll be able to address more individuals. And our focus really is seniors, disabled, head of household veterans that are on fixed incomes.
Thank you. Councilmember Amos.
Yes, sir. A quick follow-up about the taxes. Because Fulton County don't only put FIFOs on taxes, they put it on the sanitation fees as well. So are they included in that as well, or specifically for taxes?
Taxes.
Okay. So quite possibly the sanitation fees can still have a lien placed against our seniors' home.
I'm going to double check, Councilmember, because I know we had that question asked, but it's my understanding, definitely it's taxes, but let me verify with you whether the sanitation got included or not. Now, I will say for DeKalb, the sanitation is included in the taxes. So that one, if you're in DeKalb County and you were on that list, then yes, your sanitation was included. For Fulton County, I want to go back and verify, because I think I wasn't quite sure if that was included. But I definitely know for DeKalb it is. So if you're a City of Atlanta resident in DeKalb County, then yes, yours was covered, but I will double check on Fulton County.
Please do, because it is two different bills in Fulton County, and
That's right.
we have been so gracious. There are a lot of programs that already cover our seniors' taxes, and a lot of them get caught with the lien with the sanitation fees. I'm glad we're taking care of that this year through our budget. But let us know, because if we have to make the ask to the donor to cover it, I think all of us would be prepared to make that.
Okay, I'll double check.
Thank you, Councilmember Amos. Just one more question on the same note. I believe there's a potential upcoming tax freeze component that was discussed as well as part of this, correct?
Yes, we're working on that as well. So the goal is to now focus in on 100 seniors, and we would do the same thing where they would have to pay the same level of taxes that they pay today, and all of that net increase would be covered by this fund. We are in the throes right now of creating that program, and so as soon as we have that identified, we'll make sure to update the council.
And I'm assuming that will be an application process.
Yes, I can imagine it will, yes.
Okay, thank you.
But I will report the final ones, the guidelines to the council.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Seeing no additional questions or comments from colleagues, thank you so much, Dr. Clementage. All right. Moving actually to the next, we have two communications that we need to hold. So we'll take that legislative action and then we'll make sure we get quorum once I know we have some movement that's going to be happening. So we're going to lose it in a second. We'll go ahead and move forward.
Item number 1, 23C 5028, a communication from Mayor Andre Dickens appointing Ms. Janae Joseph to serve as a member of the Municipal Market Company Board of Directors. His appointment is for a term of 2 years. And item number 2, 23C 5029, a communication from Mayor Andre Dickens appointing Ms. LaDonna Barnes, MBA, to serve as a member of the Municipal Market Company Board of Directors. His appointment is for a term of 2 years.
I move to hold both items.
Second.
Second by Winston. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
All right, the items are held, 4 yeas, 0 nays. I believe that concludes communications, so that takes us to ordinances for first reading.
Item number 6, 23-0-1113, CDP 2239, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 950 West Marietta Street Northwest and 0 West Marietta Street from the industrial land use designation to the mixed use land use designation and for other purposes. Item number 7, 23-0-1114, CDP 2302, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 2120 and 2130 Marietta Boulevard Northwest and parcel ID listed here from the industrial land use designation to the mixed use medium density land use designation and for other purposes. Item number 8, 23-0-1115, CDP 2303, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 646, 648, and 652 Echo Street Northwest from the low-density residential land use designation to the medium-density residential land use designation and for other purposes. Item number 9, 23-0-1116, CDP 2304, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 820, 830, 832, 836, and 1580 Flat Shoals Road Southeast and 816 Maynard Terrace Southeast from the single-family residential land use designation to the low-density commercial land use designation and for other purposes. Item number 10, 23-0-1131, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee authorizing the Department of Parks and Recreation to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the United States Tennis Association of Atlanta for the implementation of a junior and adult tennis apprentice program at City of Atlanta Tennis Center sites for a term of 1 year with 2 one-year renewal options, waiving the competitive procurement provisions contained in Part 2, Chapter 2, Article 10, Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City Code of Ordinances in order to re-engage USTA and continue to provide a tennis junior and adult tennis apprentice program at the various tennis centers and for other purposes.
All right, and 4 of those 5 items are CDP amendments, and those will be discussed at next week's first quarter CDP public hearing scheduled for March 8th. So be on the lookout for that. Moving on to ordinances for a second reading.
Item number 11 is 23-0-1102, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee waiving the requirements of Chapter 2, Article 9, Division 1, Section 2-910 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, and authorizing the mayor or his designee, including the Commissioner of the Department of City Planning, to apply for an Improving Neighborhood Outcomes and Disproportionately Impacted Communities Grant from the State of Georgia's allotment of Federal Coronavirus State Fiscal Recovery Fund in an amount not to exceed $750,000.00, and to enter into any necessary agreements for the acceptance and implementation of the grant if awarded, in order to support the visioning, planning, and designing of a memorial green space and park at the former site of the Chattahoochee Brick Company and for other purposes.
All right, I believe we have Andrew Walter speaking to this with the Department of City Planning.
Hello, good afternoon. This is Andrew Walter, Department of City Planning. This is an ordinance to allow the application and acceptance of a grant that would provide $750,000, which is what we applied for, with no local match for the planning of the Chattahoochee Brick site.
Questions or comments from colleagues? Seeing none, I move approval. Second by Westmoreland. No discussion. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. The vote is closed.
Item is favorable, 4 yeas, 0 nays. Thank you so much. Next item.
Item number 12, 23-0-1117, an ordinance by Council Member Andrea L. Boone authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Atlanta Workforce Development Agency, aka WorkSource Atlanta, to exercise an option to renew the contractual agreement for the FC number listed here with Arbor E&T LLC, DBA Ecus Workforce Solutions, for a term of 1 year at an amount not to exceed $1,450,000.00 for purposes of providing workforce service delivery for Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, adult and adult dislocated worker programs and services, to authorize the approval of an administrative memorandum to update the account streams for payments pursuant to this agreement, to authorize the Chief Financial Officer to make payments pursuant to the administrative memorandum. All contracted work shall be charged to, paid from the accounts listed herein, and for other purposes. There's an amendment in your packet that will correct the contract number.
Thank you so much, colleagues. There is an amendment that corrects the contract number. I'll go ahead and move to amend. Second by Winston. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
Motion to amend is favorable, 4 yeas, 0 nays. Amy Lancaster King with WorkSource Atlanta.
Good afternoon. Thank you. This piece, while it may seem like the most important piece is the contract renewal, that is important. It's really the administrative memo process for updating our funding lines that's critical to how we function and get things done before our funding expires. So we worked very closely with grants accounting as well as procurement and then legal on this language. What it does is it updates the contract to allow us to update funding lines without going back through legislation. This particular contract, the RFP started in August of 2021, and the funding lines that we needed to start with the RFP have obviously since expired because our funds only last for about 15 to 18 months. And so it also incorporates two different populations to be served, adult and dislocated worker. We may have a good estimate at the beginning when we do the RFP of how many we're going to serve in one versus the other, but you don't know until present day who needs served. Like we are getting more WARN notices right now, but our number of dislocated workers are staying very low. People are getting rehired very quickly and not needing that type of service. But this allows us to serve the people as best we can, as quickly as we can, and not leave money on the table, which is key.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from colleagues? There's a motion to approve as amended by Westmoreland. I will second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
The item is favorable as amended, 4 yeas, 0 nays. Thank you, Ms. Lancaster King. All right, next item.
Item number 13, 23-0-1118, an ordinance by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone to waive a provision of the second amended and restated intergovernmental agreement between the City of Atlanta and Atlanta Housing Opportunity, Inc., authorized pursuant to 20-1779 to support the development of a 76-unit affordable housing project at 2980 Delmar Lane Northwest and for other purposes.
Thank you. There's actually an ask from the author to file this particular paper. I think they're going to revisit how to address this particular issue and work with the Department of Law on that matter. So I will move to file.
Second.
Second by Winston. Any discussion? Seeing none, please open the vote.
Vote is open. And the vote is closed.
Motion to file is favorable, 4 yeas, 0 nays. Next item.
Item number 14, 23-0-1125, an ordinance by council members Alex Wan and Liliana Bakhtiari to amend the land use element of the 2021 City of Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to designate property at 2018 Flat Shoals Road, Southeast, Atlanta, Georgia, 30316 to the single-family residential land use designation and for other purposes.
Colleagues, I believe this item is being asked to be held for at least one cycle. I'll move to hold. Second by Westmoreland. Any discussion? Seeing none, please open the vote.
Vote is open. And the vote is closed.
Item is held, 4 yeas, 0 nays. Next item. That moves us to resolutions.
Item number 15, 23R3237, a resolution by Councilmember Alex Wan authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to extend the memorandum of understanding with Piedmont Park Conservancy for a period not to exceed 6 months and for other purposes.
Well, before we do that, colleagues, I believe we do have an amendment that was sent out, so I think we need to amend this item, and I'll move to amend. Second by Westmoreland. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
Right. The motion to amend is favorable, 4 yeas, 0 nays. Deputy Commissioner Boss.
Good afternoon, Chairman Dozier, members of council. As stated, this extends current agreements with Piedmont Park Conservancy for up to 6 months. Piedmont Park Conservancy has been a model conservancy for over 30 years. One of the issues we have with conservancies of this size is they operate many, many amenities within the park. So this gives both the city and the conservancy more time just to go through that process as we go through a new MOU and operating agreement. At the same time, continue to offer excellent services. So we would recommend approval.
Motion to approve as amended by Winston. I will second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Vote is closed.
Item is favorable as amended, 4 yeas, 0 nays. That concludes resolutions. The one paper that we had held in committee, we already took that item as a communication, so no other items held in committee, no dual referred items. So I believe that concludes our legislative agenda for the day. Colleagues, any general remarks before we adjourn? I have a couple, so I just want to give y'all. Well, I'll go ahead and knock them out. Colleagues, the first thing, I alluded to this earlier, but we do have a CDP hearing March 8th, 6 o'clock p.m. in the council chambers. I look forward to seeing all of my CDHS colleagues at the CDP. It's next Wednesday, March 8th. It's at 6 o'clock p.m. in the council chambers. Next thing I have is I know at least one of the public comments spoke to pending STR legislation for short-term rentals. That item was dual referred to both zoning and Community Development and Human Services committees. By virtue of that, both our committees are hosting a joint work session about the proposed short-term rental legislation. It will be held on March 16th at 1 o'clock p.m. in the full city council chambers. We expect there to be a lot of debate and dialogue and commentary about that particular issue. So we have a slight venue change for that particular work session. And then lastly, for my District 4 constituents, we are hosting our first quarterly town hall next Thursday, March the 9th. March the 9th is not only our town hall date, it's my mother's birthday. And as a famous rapper once said, the greatest rapper of all time died on March 9th, but we are hosting a town hall that evening, 6:30 p.m. at Wild Leap Brewing. It's at 125 Ted Turner, right down the street here from City Hall. So it's a big day. Hope to see you all out there, and we'll be joined by the Department of Department of Customer Service with their ATL 311 team to talk about 311 and all the ways our residents and businesses and stakeholders can get plugged into our city's system. With that being said, any other comments or remarks? Seeing none, we are adjourned.